everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Zach, and here we talk about overlanding, gear, builds, DIY, all sorts of stuff related to modifying your vehicle. Today we are going to be talking about kind of a smaller modification, but I think it's useful, especially for some of you out there that maybe don't have a lot of extra storage within the vehicle to store things. So if you are familiar, I've got a James Brown rooftop tent, and I'm running a Sherpa roof rack as well as a bunch of their accessories. And one thing that you'll note is like a lot of people tend to store their traction boards on their roof or somewhere on the exterior of their vehicle because it helps to save space, and if they get dirty, you don't have to put them inside of your vehicle. Well, that's something that I've been kind of looking for and wanting to solve, but I don't want to put stuff on top of my James Brown. So the James Brown tent has some crossbars, so I could do that if I want to, but I'm just trying to keep it as low profile as absolutely possible. And so that's why you've all maybe seen my chainsaw mount. A lot of people really dig the chainsaw mounted on the one side of the 4Runner, and today we're going to be mounting my traction boards on the other window panel on the other side. So I think this is a sweet mod. I'm going to kind of break down all the different components you'll need if you're going to use any of the Sherpa equipment to do this, and I think it's going to turn out pretty sweet. So a couple things. I'll show you what some of the different traction boards look like proportionally next to that window, and then you can kind of make a decision for yourself whether you think you need to buy specific traction boards and whether you might need to sell your current roof rack to buy a Sherpa Creststone. So, all right, well, I've got a new top-down setup here. You maybe can kind of see it in the background. I'm going to show you a little more in detail how to install this on the window panel. We'll jump out to the 4Runner and we'll get it installed on the actual roof rack. All right, let's jump right into it. Okay, so let's start this install. So basically we've got the window panel, we've got the suction cups for sticking it onto the window. We've got these brackets here for holding the traction boards. We've got MaxTrax pins for holding the MaxTrax, and we have our MaxTrax lights. So these are, I like to call them the two-handle version. There's a three-handle, a two-handle, and I think a one-handle version. These are MaxTrax lights. They're the two-handle version, and that's what we're going to be mounting up. I think proportionally they will fit nicely, and I think dimensionality wise they're about as long as I can go without it getting goofy. So let's first start by taking this window panel wrap off. Let's kind of get a bunch of this stuff unboxed, and then we'll reconvene here and I'll show you how to lay it out. Alright, so first of all, let's start out with the suction cup brackets. We'll get these put on the actual window panel here. So all we're going to do is we're going to take this and slide that right in there like that. It's literally that easy. And then this bracket here we're going to take and bring underneath and set right here just like so. And this is going to require a little bit of adjustment, but what we'll do here now is grab the two shortest bolts. Mine are a hex head, but in the instructions they show a button head. I presume since making the instructions they've maybe decided these are a little bit better to work with here. So put a washer on each of those, and then there's going to be a washer and a lock nut on the back side of each of these. So we'll grab this and just flip it over. These are likely a 7/16. Another reason I love having my workbench right here is all of my wrenches are right here ready to go. So it is in fact a 7/16. Not exactly sure where this needs to be tightened down, so I'm not going to tighten these too aggressively. And then what we'll do is I'm going to hold my wrench underneath here, center this pad, and tighten this down. So that's at least held in place, and I'll come back and adjust that as needed. This suction cup mount is in the spot we want, so great. Now what we're going to do is unpackage these and install the MaxTrax pins on them, and then mount these up onto the window panel. So let's go ahead and do that now. Alright, so I just opened the next pack of hardware. They're all the same size. We've got a bunch of washers and a bunch of lock nuts. So now we just got to start putting all these pieces on here. There's a little hole in a slider right up here, so that's where we're going to start, because I believe that's where this all needs to get bolted through. So we're going to drop through 4 bolts on this side and then 4 bolts on the other side. And what I'll probably do is might start one of these just to get them fairly tightened down. so this isn't bouncing all over the place. Wonder if we use that little hole right there. I think we do. All right, so we'll put one through there, right there, and yeah, we do. Just like so. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tighten all these down to just about tight, but not quite all the way tight, so that when I line up the traction boards, I can kind of get that sorted. But I'm gonna try and get this completely tightened down before I put it on the vehicle, because working with bolts behind these panels is just not fun. There's not much space to swing a wrench. And if you have like an extended handle wrench, that's workable, but if you don't, not ideal. All right, so now that we've got that, we want to make sure that this doesn't hit on the door at all, and these pins kind of, I don't know, I'm gonna favor it being farther back rather than forward, so that's what we're gonna do. All right, so that one is done. I'm gonna mount up the MaxTrax pins before I continue. So I wanna give a big shout out to eTrailer. eTrailer is the company that sent out these MaxTrax pins, and they sent out the MaxTrax lights. So go check them out. They've got some good stuff. And they stock almost all the same overland gear out there. So if your favorite store is out of a product, they likely got it too. And I've got a pretty sweet project potentially upcoming with them, so stay tuned for that. So these MaxTrax pins are kind of funny, but what you do is you hold the top plastic with a wrench and then you tighten on the bottom side. So I'm going to cheat a little here because I don't want to have to figure out exactly how this goes. And unfortunately that's not going to work. So no cheating allowed this time. All right. Okay, so these are small slotted channels. So what we're gonna do now is make sure that these just fit properly. Because if they're too spread apart, which they are, then that's a problem. All right. Well, let's loosen them back up and try again. All right, that fit perfectly. So we've got those situated. Now we just gotta set up this side here appropriately, which it looks like I'm actually completely off here. We gotta move these in to be a little bit closer. So I'm glad we slid this one in as far as I possibly could. Okay, so I've got the layout pretty much sorted here, and this is kind of a nice layout, I think, for how this is gonna land on the vehicle. And I'll show you a couple reasons for that in a little bit, but basically how the door opens and how the trunk opens, I think this is about perfect. So I set this as far in as possible, and then I just dialed in the left so that it would fit the traction board correctly. So as you can see here, if I take my traction board, I slide it over all the pins, we're good to go. These are actually the two traction board pin style. So all you do is you get it to the spot you want and you turn them. And these are designed for 2 MaxTrax, so they're basically ready to go, just like that. And then you can slide a little lock through them once you turn them. So one thing I'm trying to decide is, this has got a nice powder coat on it, but I could drill a hole through to hold these traction boards. I think they'll be okay with just 2 screws, but it might be worthwhile to drill a hole right through there, so I think I'm gonna do that now. Better than nothing, I suppose, to have one extra, so we'll go with it. It's a little bit overkill, I presume, but that's okay. Little overkill never hurt anybody. That's tightened down, ready to go. Okay, now we can take this out to the vehicle and start getting it installed. And that's essentially all we got to do to prep this before putting it on the vehicle. So what we've got now is, this is all ready. We've got the suction cups. Now we're just going to have to disassemble part of the roof rack. The remainder of the hardware in this kit comes with like an 1.25" button head and a 1" button head. And we're going to use these to bolt into some spots where there's already a crossbar and a bracket for the rear of the Peak Series or Sport Series roof racks. So I'll show you where those are and we'll start getting these installed. All right, let's jump out to the vehicle. Well, this really sucks, but I forgot on my trip I had packed this bag here of my light roast beadlock coffee. I typically get it in the 5-pound bags because it's a really good deal. I think it breaks down to being around like 12 or 13 bucks a pound with my discount code and the bulk discount of getting 5 pounds at a time. It's a sweet deal. It's really good craft coffee, and you can get it in a bunch of different roasts. I'm a big light roast guy, but I know some of you out there hate light roast and only like dark roast. And if that's your cup of tea, then you know you can order that roast for your coffee. So basically, it's really unfortunate. I had to drink some pretty subpar coffee, we'll say, because I had pulled some coffee out of my 5-pound bag and put it in the smaller bag, which Beadlock Coffee is nice enough to give me a couple of these smaller bags just so I can pack them in my camping gear. And of course, for my overnight trip, I completely forgot it. So had to go and pick up some last minute from a local place, but unfortunately, that's just how it goes sometimes. I got this one all packed up here though, and we're gonna put it in my Roam case so it's ready to go for the next trip. But shout out to Beadlock Coffee for supporting me. And like I've said before, I've been drinking only this coffee basically straight since November. It's great stuff. I absolutely love it. So, you know, I'm continuing to drink it. I think that says a lot about whether it's a good product or not. Hopefully, that's a good testament to me liking the coffee. So, alrighty, well, let's get back to the video. All right, so let's start prepping this here to get this taken apart. Got a couple zip ties I'm just gonna clip here and redo. Right through here, and here. Then I gotta remove the cap on my rock light here so I can relocate this. So we'll grab one of our longer bolts here, run it through the panel and through that bracket. Thankfully, those aren't channels, so you just got to lift it until everything lines up. Nothing about trying to actually position it level enough. All right, well, that's gonna be a wrap for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this sort of DIY content, or you like what I'm doing with the 4Runner, or you just like watching some cool content with off-road vehicles, consider subscribing. Please like this video if it brings you any sort of value, because it really helps me out. Helps me be able to continue to grow this channel. And if you're somebody who does a lot of DIY work or garage work and you don't like your hands getting all oily or dried out from dust, these orange gloves are like the best thing ever. I completely gone away from using your standard work gloves, except for if I'm carrying wood or other dry things, because all the dust and dirt and oils, it's just so much easier to wear these gloves. And they're really flexible, so they don't restrict your hands, which I love. And in the winter, they're pretty warm. Not sponsored. I've spent probably a couple $100s on gloves, if not more, but they're so nice, and I don't end up in just like getting nice pairs of gloves, you know, ruined with oil. So, all right, well, that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.